We have this tension building not only in you but also in us. Yeah, I also got stressed out. Hello, let's dispel this tension. I'm so happy to have you here. I would like to welcome everyone. I have a great pleasure to announce the next lecture. I'm a bit stressed. There's so many of you here. From idea to the screen, the skill of pitching in a feature movie, the pitching of projects in the new production, the Piotr Woźniak-Starak new modern film production group. The lecture will be by the fantastic Ewa Puszczyńska, the producer. And equally fantastic producer Mariusz Włodarski. I congratulate you on your recent successes. We're so happy to have you here with us, and we would like to invite everybody to the lecture. We just thought that it would not be a lecture, maybe, because we like to dialogue, and this is what we do a lot. So we thought that maybe we will have a chat about what this our pitching life is about. What does it look like? How do we build those stories? Where do they come from? And here I would like to thank for giving this fantastic title to this event, because it gave us a lot of inspiration and food for thought. So we thought that if we start to discuss the discussion from the idea, where do the idea for a movie come from? Eva, where do you get the ideas for the film? I thought that you will direct that to me. It differs. Sometimes these ideas come to me. I don't need to look for them. They come to me in the form of a script, or in the form of a treatment, or in the form of a short note. Somebody who's interesting in life has an interesting idea, and it would be worth to make a movie out of this. So in my case, this is the most frequent case. Although I right now have two projects on the table which I've been developing very slowly. And these are projects which are only mine. I was inspired in one case by a book, in the other case by a story that some woman told me. I wanted to say a live human. I can be more concrete, a live woman. But the most frequent case is that somebody comes to me with an idea, and it either thrills me, and I would say, okay, I will spend the next 3-5 years to do this. I don't know, Mariusz, how it is with you. I must admit that I am this fantastic producer. Thank you for this queuing me in, because I've been brought up. I was raised by Ewa Puszczyńska. I was her junior producer many years ago. So I am tainted with a similar approach, of course, in the positive meaning of this word. So I also select very personal projects. So for me, the definition of the moment is, I would say, is twofold. You have the producers, the director's idea or the producer's idea, and people tend to think that the producer's idea is the bad thing. But I have a lot of producers who found whom I train, and they found such fantastic topics that we became really jealous of them, that they found this inspiration. They don't do it alone; they do it in collaboration. This is what it's all about. With me, I'm usually very sensitive to a human being, and a human being comes to me with some idea very early on, because I'm a type of producer who likes to get engaged in an idea. I don't like to engage in a ready project. In a ready project, for me, it's a bit too late. It's already taken shape. I need to enter this with my sensitivity and add my 2 cents, because this gives me this drive to work on this several years. Absolutely, yes. So I wanted to ask you, what is more important for you, the story or the storyteller? And in this case, you answered without me questioning that for you, the storyteller is more important. However, it's very similar with me. I really enter very early on the projects. Why? Because I have the rule, what I select, the project that comes to me, it has to get me interested. I've been repeating that here again and again in Film Spring Open, not only as a producer, but it has to get me interested as a human being. So a project that tells a story that is important to me as a human. If I was a teacher, if I was a nurse, whoever, the things that this project, this script or treatment is talking about are important to me, and only then I get engaged into those projects. It was so far like this so far. Maybe it will change, but yes, I do agree with you, Mariusz, that a human is the most important thing, the point of departure for me. Although there are different theories, because sometimes they say the script has to be good, because out of a good script you will always get a good movie. If it's a bad script, a bad movie. It's not always so. Sometimes the script is where you could still work on it. It gets too early to production. But a very good director, a very good crew, a very good team can get out of this something that is very good or great. There are also artists who treat script as as a very rough point of departure. They treat it as a literature, and they say that a script is not a movie. But they did understand now, I'm thinking about a very concrete person, that in order to make a movie, first you need to have a script so that the producer could go and basing on the script, they could get it financed. But these scripts of these individual person, and that's not the only person in the world. They are very short. They are very sketchy. And I even coined an expression that this artist writes scripts with a camera. The film gets made when we enter the set, when everything changes, where quite often we follow the movie and not the script. So these are very different cases, and I must say in my work, this is fantastic. Yes, however, the key to follow such idea, such theme, is the experience. So no world will fall into your feet or will finance your project if you have just an outline, some idea, unless you are a star. And the star can allow themselves to go and say, I already made it, I showed my mettle, I know how to do things, so I have the privilege of not needing to prove you everything prove anything with another ready text. But for the majority of us, the text is the basis for financing further. Ruben Oswald, for example, he finances based on a treatment, and the treatment is a general outline of the world. And when he finances this project, he only starts by rehearsals within the axis, or like tests within the axis of this treatment. He tries to look for a movie, and he's got £2 d'Or in Cannes. Of course, I was talking about Paweł Pawlikowski, who creates in such a way. But yeah, that's true. Absolutely, you're right, Mariusz, that it has to be somebody who can allow themselves to do this, who already has a certain position and certain name in the industry. I remember when I was in a peace commission, and Paweł Pawlikowski, he was making this French movie which he doesn't like anymore, and he doesn't. Yeah, sorry, Paweł, that I named that movie. And I got a few pages of like scribbled notes from Paweł, and if I didn't see his works before, his previous 2 movies and his documentaries, I would say, never ever I will give any money to that man. But then we made Ida together. The script of Ida was like 56 pages long first. Then I managed to push Paweł to get to 42 pages, to 62. But in all funds, the first question was, why is this so short? It doesn't include everything that will be in the movie. But let me repeat, you have to have a renowned name and certain successes under your belt. This is the basis. So the basis for the financing is a very good script. Not only script, we have to have the whole package. That is true. So in a bit of a circular, circumvent way, will be tell you that what we need to start pitching. So we're starting from the idea. Once that now that it's clear for you that within the idea, it has to have some sort of a quality within the text, so that we have something to too tangible to present. But Eva touched perfectly on the fact that it's not the script itself, it's a package. What do you mean by package? For us, a package? Who wrote the script? Who's directing? Who's the main creative group of that idea? It might be a very well-known DOP, it might be a very, very well-known set designer. It is a cast which is in that package, and these are our partners, those that we have to acquire or those that we have already recruited, so brands that support us. And now, how such a package is created? Usually it's either the director himself or the producer himself that takes care of it, and it shouldn't be so, because this is the first stage of teamwork. This package should convey what a team which got together to work on this idea. It should be the first result of a common work of this team that would be then sent out into the world. So it is very important, this is my point of view, that we take all these elements of a package, mood boards, storyboards, castings, etc., that we do it together with the producer, but also with the authors, so that a project that is well thought of the small community that will be moving on with the whole film, that it's a common work. So coherence is and continuity, what Eva mentioned as well thought of, I'm calling this coherent. We have to feel that somebody really gave it a thought and those elements fit together. Of course, there is in it a certain risk that we won't be able to achieve certain things at some stage, because everything is on a continuous basis. So if we're thinking about this immense cast on the American side, let's say, it waits for my financing rather than will jump on any project that is only very theoretical. So those packages have different approaches. In our European reality and system, which is financed from the author's perspective, you're not going into this pathway. You have to show that you know. You have to show that you know that you have somebody to make this project with. And it's very important what we've been talking here in the morning during our meeting with my group. We are preparing a package, and this package is necessary for us to perform pitching. And as Mariusz said, certain things from the moment of preparation of the package, preparation of materials for pitching, then until the final realization, they could change. But we cannot assume when presenting a project to some financiers and other people, we cannot assume. We can have this awareness, but we cannot say, at this moment it will be like this, but it might change soon. One of the traits of good pitching is self-confidence of the pitcher. So self-confidence in a positive meaning of this word, that you are convinced, you're really convinced that what you do is important, that you want to do these movies, and you can answer why me and why now, why at this very moment. These are two very important questions, because we're explaining to ourselves why me and why now, why this is important. I would like to add here, we didn't talk about this today, that we should be aware what our movie is about. And this is not about the story itself, about the plot, but what is it all about? Sometimes you can use one word. Let's say it's about love, it's about betrayal, it's about loss of faith, it's about... drop any idea here, but it's about a disaster. That it's, I would say, like the key word to that movie, and that idea we will tell, will storytell around this story in a certain way. Okay, I hope that most of you know this fantastic pitching by Ridley Scott, who went to his own production house and said that he has a great idea for a movie. And what was the idea? I will make like Jaws in space, and that was the only sentence that opened the door for the Alien. So that was one thing that was remembered by history, that sometimes you do not need to have like big thought of like very baroque constant message that is focused on the details, where you want to tell all the elements of your story. It's this moment where you can carry certain idea, bring it on a more general level, show them the general message that is able to motivate us to participate in the project. So this word pitching, I just wanted to say, we were totally unprepared. That's why we're sort of bubbling away and dialoguing here, and we're cutting in. The word pitching seems a bit mysterious sometimes. We're using this English word because we're quite often pitching also abroad, and I wish that you also will do, of course, like in the industry fairs and exhibitions and other events. It might be pitching is actually a presentation, and what we're doing, we're presenting ourselves and we're presenting the projects, different things in life, very, very often. Mariusz said, for example, date. Can you elaborate on this, Mariusz? Just imagine, on the first date, you just want to present yourself from the best perspective, but you tell about who you are, where you're from, what's your experience, why you're looking for something. The first day, this meeting somebody, what it consists in, of course, you'll not disclose everything. You'll not go into all the dark aspects of your reality or the most horrible sex kink that you have in your life, unless it's like some self-date and through a tool and so you can hide behind the tool like smartphone. But in a face-to-face, you don't do that. Pitching, for me, if it's a public pitching that you can do, for example, on the scene, or whether it's individual, one-to-one, it is some sort of a flirt. Especially the one-to-one, yeah. But the big one is a flirt too. But then you're flirting with with a huge mass, and not everybody will be your target. But the idea in your head should be that not every meeting and not every date will lead you to successful relationship, which doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Of course, you have to try, especially when it comes to project, and especially if you want your films to come to reality. Let me stop here at this one-to-one concept, because from the very outset, if we're well aware, sometimes we're pretty nervous, but if you're aware of how your counterparty reacts, you can pretty quickly realize what you say after a few sentences, if it resonated, or whether you can see your interlocutor sitting at the table just because of his good manners, that he doesn't want to say, okay, this is not for me, goodbye. So I took part in the pitchings in which I was the person who was pitched at, but we had this time, like 15 minutes for a meeting, and this meeting was getting prolonged because both parties entered the dialogue. It was not that we started to dialogue, to talk, but even though these projects were not created with me, but the meeting but the discussion was so inspiring, and I really recommend for you that you should also take this as a lesson. Yeah, the goal of pitching is that it's not to go out with 50 partners and living with them. It's finding one or two with whom you have you're at the same sort of, you're in the same communication, you're on the same wavelength. People tend to think pitching is all about myself. I'm to pitch the story to yourself. No, that's untrue. You also have to pitch yourself as the recipients. Maybe I don't like how you take notes, how you look at the phones when I'm telling you something important. This is a two-way lane. It always works both ways. It's not that I'm meeting with somebody who will open the golden doors and throw money at me. Sometimes it might happen that behind this pile of money there's bigger threat than you could expect, and you in this pitching you also have to be able to recognize this. You also be able to lead to this dialogue taking place, because if there's no dialogue you will not learn about it, because you are in only in this very individual single lane production of messages. So this dialogue is very important from the very outset. Mariusz, as you mentioned, behind this pile of money, a threat lurks, and sometimes we meet somebody who's not able to give us huge money, but might help us in another way in terms of preparing our project, because they will get us connected with somebody else, because they're a great person. Even if we don't make with them this film, maybe we will strike this relationship, and maybe this friendship will result in another movie. I believe that the process of filmmaking, it is difficult, it is stressful, so it is important. You won't always be successful, but try with your partners, like with co-producers, but also with authors with whom you work, that you feel well at the human level. This is extremely important. If I have a international co-producer, let's say I'm trying to get to know them, I learn different things about them, but quite often I get it only in the making that was a mistake, that I will finish that movie because I brought in money from Poland. I'm a minority co-producer. Of course I will complete that movie, but I will never ever work with them again, even that nothing great happened, even that there was no disaster, no scandal, the shooting was completed, but I see that the way this person works, or how he relates, how he behaves towards the crew, the way they think about movie making, about the world, is very distant from mine. That's why I don't want to work with them again. So what Mariusz mentioned, that the second that this other part is also very important for us, because the money is very important for our company and for our movies and for our projects, but not the most important. Even now we tend to make mistakes, and sometimes we are sort of angry about our co-producers and our partners, etc. This is also because sometimes our intuition, we don't listen to our intuition, or we forget about certain things, or we fail to notice something. You can also be duped by somebody's fantastic personality, at least outwardly, and show themselves from a much better way. So this relationship that leads you, it's something that you have to enter. This dating is a good key for me, because you never enter a relationship, or you do not marry somebody after the first date. Usually you have to have at least few dates to get to know one another and to learn something more, not only on the topic that brought you together, but also in how you see the world. Exactly, this is very important. A coherent view of the world is very important for me, at least in my partners. I can't imagine working with somebody who would be a racist, for example. I can't imagine working with somebody who would very officially and very loudly would not take care about the environment, or would have contempt for the animals. Not because I'm a saint figure, but I do have certain view of the world, how people should be treated, how animals should be treated, how an environment should be treated, and that's important, because Mariusz can confirm that it's a very tough job that doesn't work. That you don't work for a day, but for several months. A commonality of a goal is also very important with your partners. Are we doing this for money, or are we doing this for achieving artistic success? Do we want to get to Cannes, Sundance, San Sebastian, or do we want to win the Gdynia, or do we want to be the biggest hit of Netflix or Amazon or Disney? Or do we want to be the most clickable film in the world? The awareness of what we're doing and for whom do we do it is a key. Is the key for selecting the partners and understanding if we're going in the same direction. Because in this world, there is a thing like when you call this pitching, that from idea to the screen, that at the end of the day, we're doing something for the screen. The question is, how do we define the screen? We have to be aware, in our co-authors, How are we defining the goal? Where do we want to get? Which tools do you want to select? So a different pitching will be done for an art house cinematic movie, which is aimed at a festival. We'll make a different pitching for a platform. Absolutely, for Netflix or anybody else. Here, I would like to stop at the word the screen. It is quite wide encompassing because screen can be the cinematic screen, even bigger than this one. It is a TV screen, but it also can be small, big, or huge, like taking up the whole wall. This is also a screen. So now we will convey a totally different message on each of those screens. There are movies which, if we watch them on a big TV screen, will have a totally different message than if you watch them in a cinema. A good example is Mariusz Puszczyński's movie, which I had the pleasure to produce, Kill This and Leave This Town. This movie, we knew from the very outset that this is a movie for a big screen. And this film was drawn in such and planned in such a way. And the sound was recorded, etc., because we knew that this is a cinematic movie. This film, watched on a good TV screen, will lose some of its appeal. You will still, of course, you will still see something in it. But watched on this, it will totally lose its meaning. Because for me, at least, for this screen, in reality, the important thing is only the plot. What happens? There's no cinema in here. We're not seeing nuances that create the language of the cinema. This is one of my haunting thoughts, that even right now the reviews quite often are limited to telling the story, to telling the plot. And the story is just one of the aspects of the cinema. And quite often I'm thinking to myself, when I see people watching something on this, I'm saying, oh, you could as well listen to an audiobook, because it's just about the story. Sometimes these are well-known actors that we know, so even if we don't see them, we know who's standing there. So defining the goal, which Mariusz mentioned, is a very important thing. You have to be aware, who are you making the movie for? Are the movies produced only for this sort of screen? What sort of movies, what sort of films are these? How do they differ? Please, louder. I mean, I will also learn from them. I mean, this is a discussion. YouTube and TikTok. How do they differ? What is important here than on the cinematic screen? So they're short. Budget? Yes, sure. In a situation when you have a content that you might get get distracted, the thing that functions in a storytelling is an action narrative. So all those things that you're talking about, that whether they're long, they're short, they're based on action or on dialogue quite often. They are not based on taking out a certain form that gives you a certain image, and you combined with the sound to evoke in you some sort of emotion or evoke in you some sort of awareness. Each of those movies includes dialogue, but the question is, where is it based? The weight, where is it? When we're talking about pitching, if you do not define the screen before you start to pitch, then suddenly you might make a mistake. How to tell us this story? Because for an art house project, art house cinema that we're doing more often than not, the meaning is much more important than the narrative. It's always combined. It's always combination of a form and and the content. However, this is not. It's not that one takes over the other. So if you're pitching for the screen, this form is not important at all. And the content is so much more important of what you should talk about. And also there could be humor, action, entertainment, but you have to approach it from a different angle. And the same with pitching. You have also the awareness where to put an accent on when you were producing for such a screen. So here, any form-related, any brave format is not always important. It's always about a certain coherence, the coherence of idea, the coherence of a screen with what we want to tell and how we want to tell it. And here again, I would like to relate to the film Roma by Alfonso Cuarón. If you're watching Roma in a cinema on a big screen with the right sound, people loved that movie. Of course, they got all the Oscars, etc., etc. But I was talking to many people who watched that movie on the TV screens or on computer screens. What is it all about? I mean, it's just a black and white movie. It's pretty boring throughout most of the time. So, at some point, a certain element has been taken away. The coherence of this movie crumbled. So, if we shake the coherence of a film, we can have a totally different perception of this. I do agree with Mariusz. You have to. I suppose you will agree with me. The awareness of what we're producing, why we produce it. I can also quote Jonathan Glazer for you here. We have the sphere of interest. We've been doing that with 10 cameras. You all know that story. But it wasn't like that from the outset that Glazer sat there and said, "Okay, we'll have 10 cameras. We'll do it like this and like this." No, all this occurred during discussions, during rehearsals, during tests. What he wrote, how to tell this story. And then he said something like this. Each time, behind every script, behind every project, there is a philosophy. So what we want to convey. And it is extremely important to find the right tools or a tool to convey that philosophy to the screen. So, as you said, there's not one single screen right now that we're talking about, and we're creating for different sorts of screens. We have to remember about that. One of the people here said that it's a movie for young people. This awareness of the target in which we function, the target for which we are creating movies, like a target group, is extremely important. Sometimes we see people pitching for the big screen, and these things are directed at young people, and they're not successful with this, because you get 40 or 50 years old to the cinema. This is a place which is their home. They learned it. They got raised as a cinema goers. If we go to the situation of a total commercial movies and entertainment, I'm not telling that with any bad intention. It's not bad for me. For me, the important thing is that the film sells, but the value comes from the target and what we want to show. So if you see what was successful in the Polish cinema, you can see 300, 600 or 400,000 people coming to the Glazer, which is absolutely art house. It's a difficult movie. It's a very formal movie, but it's fascinating and important one. Very mesmerizing, so captivating, and holding you in its grasp. And on the other hand, you've got huge epics, huge like big blockbusters, which are really big and with a panache of production. And suddenly, this middle has disappeared. it moved into the smartphone or into a TV, but at some point it lost it gained a totally different viewer, but lost in cinema. And the awareness which of those stories is the one I have on the table and where I pitch, because this is where we're getting, is key. As you said, when you talked about Glazer, I think I will come back to the word coherence. Everything has to be coherent. If you know from the outset that this is an art house, we knew that from the outset it's going to be an art house movie, and this it will be for this sort of viewership and not the other one. And I was really, I was actually quite astonished that that this was a huge success. We thought it will be 10 times more, 10 times less people watching it. So coherence is very important. And you said about this big screen and Glazer, and now blockbuster. And what about in terms of middle market? You have streamers, you have TV, and a bit of YouTube and stuff. So we have fantastic art house cinema, we have blockbusters, but in reality, I would say the cinema middle of the way have the biggest viewership. And I do think that here also looking for your own ideas and being aware how we make those, how we bring them to realization, we should know that we are providing for all the films to be successful. We bring to people entertainment, maybe not. We bring to them experiences, emotions. So it's fantastic if we cry on the movie, if we laugh on the movie, if we are afraid during the movie. The movie is building those emotions inside of us. Even if this is not a fantastic, some incredible art house movie or not a blockbuster, but for a large group of people, as large as possible, hopefully, it is an important movie, because if this movie is done well, at a high level, if it's coherent, then this is also a very good and very needed sort of a cinema. Why do people right now prefer to watch comedies and genre movies rather than, let's say, social dramas, melodramas? Maybe they want to watch, but it's because they're getting away from the horrible everyday life, from the horrors of everyday life that surround us, and they would like to hide for an hour or two, which is not real, but it tells true stories. That you can leave the cinema and you can either cry or laugh or compare that to your life and say, oh, it's better than me because I have a loving husband and this guy left her, etc., etc. So I think we are lacking a bit of that cinema, and it's not, my view is that, and I hope you disagree with me, that we cannot really make such movies in Poland. Good middle of the way cinema. I'm trying not to judge. I'm in this industry I've been in this industry for 20 years, and for me, any movie that is created is a miracle. So if anybody does a movie, whether it's better or worse, or it's on a big screen, smaller screen, you have to appreciate that, because this is an extreme effort to have this sort of art or of emotions to take shape. It's not always successful, because sometimes you're working on this combination, and even the best intuition can also fail you. It might often happen that people quarrel on the set and it's too late to change the cast. It might occur that your casting was wrong, and you have the worst person on the set that will destroy your movie, and you will see that what are the consequences of your bad decision, or you're not only you personally, but you're as a team, because this is always a matter of cooperation. Nobody is a person that forces others to work, not from our perspective, but in this commercial perspective, our colleagues who do more commercial work, they're always interested in this cooperation. So generally, I always think in the category when I approach any sort of pitching that I'm to do, I'm thinking, what's my goal? Who I want to cooperate with? Why do I need this? Because the key to the pitching, the pitching consists of three basic things. One is who. A group who brings in the movie, which means who am I, with whom I work, who's the director, who's the DOP, what does it look like, who's my co-production partner. Then, what we said a moment ago, what, which means what am I coming with, what type of movie is this, what sort of content this is, and it's focused on how should I convey the message. So when you're going to the date, so this, you are the who, what is also you. This why, this is the third phase. What am I looking for? What do I need? Is what the other person has to offer. But without the awareness that I need to say who I am and what do I expect, they will not be able that they need you, that you need them. I don't know what I should add to that fantastic sentence that you just said. It's all very well, but I just wanted to add a few words that making a movie is a miracle. That's true. Even the best intentions and preparations do not end with a good movie. And I would like to have a small digression here. What do you mean by a good movie? How do we judge it? Do we judge it by quantity? Because every movie costs a lot of money. The quantity of viewers in the cinema. Can we judge it subjectively, objectively? You're not judging the art anyway, but can you judge it as a movie? A very well made movie with some message which the world did not accept. Let's say the audience rejected it. I'm saying that from my own experience. I was talking about that last year. I had these discussions about failure. How do we understand failure? And it's the movie The Fools by Tomek Wasilewski, which in the meaning that the film in festivals didn't work, in distribution very bad. This movie was a total failure. However, I believe because we all thought that the main topic of the film, but I think that was maybe a mistake in realization, in performance. We were talking about an incestual relationship of a grown-up person with a grown-up mother, like 60-year-old with 40-something-year-old son. And we believe that this movie was rejected because of the topic. So certain people in the festivals confirmed, but I do still think, and I think this is maybe too subjective, that this is a good movie as such. Even though it was rejected, even if it's somewhere, it rests somewhere on the shelf, nobody watches it. So somehow you have to be aware with the pitching. What is our measure of success? What is our measure of success? I define this as a currency. She says the measure of success. So I have this feeling that I, as the producer, for me, the measure of success is the relationship. If during the process I do not get the energy of being able to cooperate with someone, I disagree, agree, comment, criticize, support, pull, drive, take over certain things, but be there in this together, I do not understand what will be my award in the future. Of course, when I'm making a movie, I'm not thinking that I will build a huge palace afterwards and have all cars in the world, because I have my own currency and I'm aware of that. When I'm making certain movies, I define the currency. So the film can be reduced to thinking that you have to gain something. But I can see also the gain in terms of not only pecuniary, not only in terms of money, but also the cultural change, which is important in a given society, some criticism of, or some openness. So the gain is not only in the monetary value, how many people paid for the ticket, but also where this film was shown, who wrote about it, how it got promoted in the topic that is important. So I've never had a commercial success, but of course, when I get it, I will treat it in exactly the same way as I treat the festival success, which I already managed to achieve several times. And for me, this value, this awareness, is extremely important. It's important because how it defines how I build my pitching. I'm not giving you an opportunity to get rich, that you will earn the biggest money in the world if you only join my production. I'm offering you a chance to join something that tells an important story. What you said about this community on the set and about this value and about this currency, I had exactly the same with the Fools. I asked myself, because Tomek was like, it was very hard for him, but I asked myself, are you sorry about a single minute of working over this movie? I said no, because we've built a community, we had a common cause, and I must tell you, because this also applies to pitchings. You have various types of workshops and courses which talk about building your audience, and most often when you're talking about building your audience, it is about as many people to come to see your movie so that it can get a return on investment, so that we can even earn money on this. But I think that again we're coming back to awareness. You have to be aware that not every movie is for everyone. So even if a movie finds like 50,000 viewers for whom this movie will be important, for whom this will convey some important message, this currency, I like this term, this currency gains a lot of value. So this awareness is something that should be the filter through which you always answer certain problems, questions, or issues. It is not so that there's nothing special to bump against the door that don't want us. I made a movie right now which is called A Girl with a Needle. It's quite a demanding movie. I did it for the cinema. Wouldn't I dream at some point to have this movie on some platform or another? Of course I would dream about this, but rationally, can I think that it will be shown there? No. Why? Because I am aware that what sort of market I function in. A good preparation for a pitching is a good awareness of where you are functioning. What is your area or your habitat? What do you want to function then again? And you can be rejected by the big commercial studios with the bad content, and you only waste your time and their time. And people remember that. People also remember who infected them. Let's say we were on a date, etc. If you were in a pitching and somebody's sick and you come back and in 3 days you are sick, you will remember who sold you COVID or something else. It happened many times. So everything stays. We are people who code not only content but also the image. What we talk, if we keep the eye contact, the way we present this is very important. It all stems from one basic definition, which we can define, and I think Eva can also say or can confirm, it's awareness. Yes, awareness is a base. I wanted to add one more thing. Sometimes, especially young producers, young authors, go and meet. They want to collect money for the films, and they are a bit ashamed. I met that myself. They have this stage fright, but they are ashamed that they're coming to Ewa Puszczyńska with something which they believe, but at the same time, let me try to explain that. On one hand, they believe that very strongly. On the other hand, because they're beginners, they think that maybe this is not as good, that the world will reject it. So let me tell you, it's not that you come here to beg. You're offering to them the result of your work, your sensitivity, your creativity. So you're giving them something. It's not like you want something from them. You also offer something to them. And this also has to be sort of injected in this word awareness. Absolutely. This is something that I heard during my first course, producer's course, where I was lecturing pitching when I was learning pitching. So thinking that we have the product, we are developing projects, we are the people who have them, who are working on it, who don't earn money for 3-5 years, only for something to be created. And at the end of the day, we are offering it. Other people are maybe a bit more lazy, and they have a different career, and they have a different awareness. So that gives you power. So when you come in thinking that you have something on offer, you might not want to buy it. I don't care. It's a key. But think about it right now. If you come somewhere, if you have something to offer, and somebody enters with criticism, and this undermines what you have on offer, then you have a problem. You have a huge problem. Because then, I don't know if you know why you're doing this story, if it's the right story that you're doing right now. But again, we're coming back again to those questions. Why me? To the idea. We're coming back to the idea. Why me? Why at this very moment? Why now? Why do I want to do this? What's the meaning for me? If we are convinced, we need to believe. We need to be convinced ourselves. So if you have anything on offer, not necessarily for you because it's too big for your room, it won't fit there, or it's too small, and in your huge rooms it will disappear. But there is someone, the 5th person, the 10th person, for whom it will be perfect. It will be a perfect fit. It will have exactly the same awareness of the world, let's say. They will love your idea. And they will want to put that into existence with you. A good measure of pitching is also the selection of the right form. Pitchings can be divided into different events. You can have a public event where I'm entering this stage and I'm putting up some sort of mood board or presentation on the screen. Maybe I made a clip or a preface for you. I have like this huge beam which hits me in the eyes. I don't see you, but I know you're there. And that's one of the ways of pitching. There I focus to be as clear as possible in the explanation, what I'm doing, what I'm looking for, because for me this is important. And I'm just waiting. Who out of you will call me, or maybe some of you, maybe nobody, maybe all of you, which I doubt. But it's just one meeting. There's a different way of pitching. So the one that Eva likes, one-to-one. So the place where you land on some event, or you cause a certain event to happen, and you have a meeting where you sit at a small table and somebody comes to you. When you are in such an event, you have to be very well prepared, because then the speeching, when you enter the stage, you have to do it once. When you're sitting at the table, you need to have it 20 times a day. And like really, after the 7th person, when you tell the same thing, you want to go out and puke, because you feel that you're repeating yourself, you lose energy. Then it's much better is to have somebody next to you and have this exchange. So somebody take over, somebody can say something about the production. I can tell something about the story, and vice versa. Yes, this form is very important, but also I think you have to listen to the interlocutor closely. If you have a one-to-one meeting which sort of changes into some sort of a dialogue, as Mariusz said, if somebody totally undermines what you're saying, it's us who have the problem. But if it throws at us interesting remarks about what or she hears and asks interesting questions, do not underestimate this. You have to be very focused, of course, which is difficult. But these questions, these nice, the cultured remarks can also help you develop your idea and your script. Sometimes it is like with a sparring partner. You have one idea that you throw, but it's not good. But this idea can lead to some other door. And not exactly as this person said, but this leads me in a different way. And this is good. This is difficult. Mariusz is right. That's why I cannot allow myself to, I'm limiting those pitchings to 5 maybe, to listen. Because it is not so, a pitcher they're bored, but I'm, as a listener, even though I'm listening to other projects, I'm also getting tired. My mental capacity starts to shrink and I can't focus anymore. That's why, again, we're getting to, should we do like a shop around with our project, or should we address concrete people? How do you find out about these people? Well, I'm also a recipient of a pitching. Those presentations, those people who come to me with a certain idea. And I'm sometimes really astonished that they didn't even do a research who I am and which films I produced. And sometimes I have people who come here and they offer me things, and I don't know where did they get this idea from that I could be interested remotely. And that's how you also judge the other person. This is not maybe nice, but this is sort of discredits that person, because I do feel that they did not do their homework. What Eva mentioned, when I debuted, I made the film with Magnus von Horn. I made a movie, The Intruder. I was pitching. We met Peter Carlton. He was from Film 4, a very good British producer. And suddenly when he listened to our pitching in which we presented our story, he said, ask us one question. You know that you're cheating. And we looked at one another. What do you mean? Why? And he asked one question, which was in the story at this stage, which totally put us, it hit us in the nose, and we knew we were cheating. And that was the end. This pitching will stay with me forever. I've never cooperated with Peter Carlton. I don't know what he's doing right now, but I will remember that pitching forever because he taught me something. So that was the pitching. It's also a lesson for you if you're open to listen to your interlocutor, and if this interlocutor is a wise person. In here, it was full of goodwill, absolutely. Somebody who's more aware was able to quickly grasp the problem in my structure of the story. It's not that he questioned the story itself. He questioned the structure. He saved me a lot of money on script doctors. So I think that's another thing. Again, awareness. We should be aware that we're learning constantly. It's continuous learning. Just like our president, Duda, I heard, Eva, we are being recorded, be aware. Hello, Mr. President. Hi, Mr. President. But that's true. We are learning throughout our lives. I have my fantastic group from the workshops here, which I am holding here. I'm mentoring here in the Filmspringopen Open, and during one of the pitchings, a guy made such a research that he presented so financial solution that I never heard of, and we looked at each other and said, that's interesting. I've never heard of it. So we don't have answers to all your questions. Every new movie is a new challenge. I'm not always co-producing the same film with the co-producers I did a film in the past. Usually I don't do that. We quite often, each next movie is done with somebody else. But what Mariusz said is true. Every time there's something new. Every time this is a new undertaking. That's why there's nothing in a movie like routine. If somebody tells you that there's a routine and you do it something routinely, this is absolutely not true. Even if there's routine, it will appear after 25 years of your career, because maybe there is a certain repeatability, but you always approach it from a slightly different angle. Yeah, we always have to make the financial plan, get the financing, right script. These are elements which are repeatable. However, the core of those elements is every time different. So what that the Excel has the same tables? If I have to come up which data to put it, and where should I get the numbers from, and whether they are credible, whether they exist. So there is no routine. Of course, there's a third pitching, which is the so-called elevator pitch, something that is very short. So quite often there's a mistake, an error young people make. They try to flood that person which is in the elevator, which goes from the 10th floor to the first floor. And so you have 1-2 minutes and you try to tell the whole story. No, the key of elevator pitch is to get somebody interested, that somebody asks you a question, which will lead you to, maybe you have a time tomorrow to meet. So you have only the place to introduce the theme, the basic the basic storyline of the story. It's not that the protagonist came here and met this and ate this, etc., because then this person is somewhere else in their thought. So try to be emphatic. Try to be emphatic about another. But if somebody comes to you, they are here and now, and they know they are here and now. If you come to the audience, probably somebody get a text message. Maybe, repeat things. Repeat your name, your surname. Repeat the title. Go into search of paraphrases. Things tend to get lost in communication. You will get. Today only 60% of the things I say today will stay with you, and I think it will be closer than 20. You have your life, you have your children, you have your families, you have things that bother you, and this person, who's in the elevator, she's mentally somewhere. So in the dinner, in the next meeting, and you, if you want to flood them with the information, which is most important for you, because you met, I don't know, the head of Polish Film Institute or the head of the committee, and suddenly you're sort of, and that will not be the best memory you leave. Another thing is this content will not get there because you leave no space for it to get there. There's another way of pitching, of course. It's called a washroom pitch. I didn't know that. Tell me some more. When you're meeting somebody in the toilet, washing your hands, and yes, next to you there's a person whom maybe you wouldn't meet, but it's a bit like an elevator pitch. It's a very short. Then you have to present yourself and say who you are, and that you would like 3 words about your project, and maybe that would get some interest. Don't do that in the washroom. If I really wanted to have Meryl Streep in my movie, and for the first time it's an authentic story. If I never pitched anything, it was only during the Oscar ceremony we were standing and in the queuing to the toilet. Okay, that's another story. It's more or less the same. And we started talking, and I always would like her to play in my movie, but it was nothing concrete at that time. But then I thought, would I be brave enough to pitch if I had anything? I answered myself that yes, if I had anything concrete, then probably I would. I then had the pleasure of meeting Meryl Streep this year through women's organizations. There was a cocktail, women's only, who had something to do with the Oscars. And Meryl Streep was also there, but I still don't have a project to get her interested, even though I don't. You never say never. However, there is something in it that Yes, of course, we have this moment. Everybody has tend to be starstruck, and there are moments when we dream about some relations, setting, establishing some connection. It's stronger than what I said now, that you should sort of restrain yourself. It stems from internal you. So if you were asked to Sławomir Idziak, he was working with many stars, and he also had that moment. He also had somebody about whom he dreamed, and you never know how you're going to behave. It's natural. We are humans. We react. We have emotions. These emotions lead us. Stories on the screen also emotions, and we're not robots. That's why in this pitching it is important to be yourself. If you are yourself, it means that I have a chance and somebody standing next to me with whom I want to meet. And things get out of us. So for example, I was telling my students that during one of the pitchings I saw people who suddenly, out of stress, they would take a box on which they were standing and they would move it to another side of the room because it was so stressful for them. Sometimes you have to get ready. This is the thing. You have to get ready for it. Maybe write something, maybe read something, maybe rehearse in front of a mother or a brother, or during a date to your partner, to your wife. Enter into this so that it becomes natural to you. Because when I asked Eva today, when did you pitch the last time? And Eva was, no, wait, a week ago. Yeah, no, that wasn't really a long time ago. We're pitching non-stop. We're presenting and we're telling what we're doing at all times, because pitching is telling what we are doing, who you are, what you do, and what you need. Maybe you have any questions, maybe you need something, maybe we didn't touch upon something, and now we can open up to you taking over this room, this hall. Hi, can you hear me? I just wanted to say one thing. First of all, I would like to thank you for this fantastic lecture, for this discussion. That the whole concept of Film Spring is presenting yourself, and so for 2 weeks, these young people are able, unfortunately, only 2 weeks. They have an opportunity to present themselves, and I would like to thank you for this lecture. But I also wanted to say about the thing that is extremely important, which is credibility of the pitchers. And here I wanted to refer to Ewa Puszczyńska, who we were talking about some sort of an award. You got an award. You made one step too much on a stage, and this stage was makeshift, and you fell down and you broke your leg. And Film Spring started a week later, and I came in and say, we have to cross out Eva because she's in the hospital, so she will not come. But on the day of lecture, you came here with your leg in the plaster, and you came and gave your lecture. Thank you for this. I will never forget that. Remember that there are different sorts of people, and being here together, you had a chance to do something that is the most important thing. And it's more difficult to find a creative partner than a husband or a wife. Once again, I just wanted to relate to what Sławek said. Me and Mariusz, we know we have the same mode of thinking, and in that we're learning. I'm coming here to share what I experienced, but I also here to listen what you're talking about. What is your experience? What you did go through? Because the financial structure of one of the projects here opened our eyes. So here, this is maybe about the routine. About the routine, we tend to go let's go with the financing piece, for example, this grant, that grant, and this is the routine. However, and we we hope not to think routinely. There are totally different ways of financing, totally different ways of making things. And I must say that I'm from another century, but you have certain things in your blood, the things that I have to learn from you if I want to keep on making movies in this world. So this is a reciprocal relationship. We both offer something to one another, just like with the pitching. We're coming not only to beg, but only to offer something that is valuable. The truth that Sławomir Idziak mentioned is that being honest, you have to identify with something that you bring to the table. I'm talking in the way I talk. I'm not an actor. There are people who get stressed. They're not able to look in the eyes. They need to read something. They have pieces of paper which they flip through. There are people who speak better English or worse English. This is not important. The important thing is to see where the passion is, where the truth is, where the emotion is, where you become one with the topic you fight for. Quite often I show during such classes to my students TED Talks, because if you look at TED Talks, you have people from different walks of life, but they all talk about something that is important for them. So they form them because then the form gives way to the content. So thank you very much for inviting us.